Well, as you heard in Penny's beautiful introduction, I have John Novello here, who I'm super excited to share with you guys. He's the author of an amazing book, The Invisible Architect. I've recommended this book now to lots of my students. I recently conducted a shadow healing workshop for 7 weeks, and I was surprised that within a week, 3 of the students had read the book. Not only read it, but one of them went through it 3 times on audio, and they were all completely blown away. It's a book that I feel it's beautiful, and I want to say, John, you did such an amazing job of taking a vast library of historical teachings. And, you know, many of the books you referenced, I've studied, so I was very intimate with the material. And you put it together in a way that anybody could understand. In fact, you know, as Penny was mentioning to you a minute ago, I'm the dishwasher at night. That's one of the things I do to take the load off of Penny. And I've been listening to your book, sometimes in the gym while training, but often at night while I'm washing dishes. So they're hanging around in the kitchen hearing it. And I made the executive decision that and I went and bought the paperback version of it. And I'm going to take time each day, and I'm going to work through the book with my children. Mona's 10 and Zoe's 7. My oldest is almost 47 now, and I got a 5-year-old grandson. But I have Mona and Zoe here with me. So I'm going to take them through, and I'm going to teach them the key points of that book, and we're going to practice it together, because I think it's so important to start children early with these principles.
I can't believe you're saying this. You know why? May I butt in and say something?
Yeah, please.
I just finished the first draft of The Invisible Architect for Young Souls, 8 to 12 years old.
I think that's phenomenal. When's it out? I'll get it.
Well, I just sent it to my literary agent. We're still in the middle of doing it, but I changed the name. It's going to be part of the Invisible Architect Guide for Young Souls. Book 1 is called Your Invisible Best Friend.
Beautiful.
That's the name of it. Yeah, it's a perfect name for kids, and I've written just maybe 400 words for each chapter with communicating to kids, and then I've got artwork, graphics that go with each concept. I'm really excited about it.
I'm super excited you're doing that. My kids are very artistic. They've been in Waldorf school from the beginning, so they've got a lot of art and acting, and Mana plays the piano. He's just joined a band, and Zoe's a gymnast and dancer, and these kids are very, very alive and very intelligent. And I just, you know, because I look at my life, and, you know, I'm a therapist and a life coach for people for a long time. So I know what hangs people up. I know for example, and we'll get into this, why these principles, even though they've been around, people don't use them. And I think that's the factor. And that exact fact that calcination of ideology and rigidity and programming leads people to not seeing the blessings of everything right in front of them and their own being. And I thought, you know, I'm going to make sure the kids have access to these principles and concepts, and then I'm going to practice them with them constantly. If I hear them using the power of their creativity in negative ways, I'll say, okay, let's flip that over, you know?
Right.
And so I just wanted to say I'm so grateful for your book. It's not the kind of book that I normally would have studied, but what caught me was the title. I thought The Invisible Architect, that sounds something right up my alley. And, yeah, you know, I get so many people trying to get me to do podcasts with them. I must get 100 publishers a day. And I just ask my soul to guide me. And I don't remember how I came across The Invisible Architect. I might have been doing a book search, or it might have been a PR agent or something, but my soul said yes. And so I started looking you up and found your website and watched some of your videos. And, you know, I am a music lover. You can see my great big giant stereo speakers back there.
I see them.
They're a Polk Audio signature line, and I've got a amp made by Bob Carver. I don't know if you remember who Bob Carver is, but Sunfire.
I was endorsed by Carver many, many years ago, and I had all kinds of amps free of charge for my name, using my name.
His amps are out of this world, man. They're awesome.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I love everything that you seem to be into is like, so I was just getting into this and thought, God damn, this is like cool shit. I got to get John on my podcast. Well, actually, no, it was you. You sent me the letter. I just realized that you sent me a letter.
Oh, I remember what happened. Yeah. I had an agent once that was getting me as a guest on podcasts, so I didn't even like working with him. So my AI, one day I said, hey, give me a list of all kinds of podcasters or hosts that either do music or spiritual stuff or whatever. And your name was one of them. And then it looked you up and wrote a personalized letter to you at the front of the email. And you responded pretty quickly.
I did, because I thought, oh my God, I thought maybe you must have, been into, listening to my podcast or, know my work, because I've been doing this for 42 years. So a lot of people do know who I am.
You probably never didn't know I am, and I didn't know who you were. So there you go.
So AI did us a big favor.
Right, exactly. And I missed I think I missed your email, because you even said, hey, I haven't heard from you. And
I waited a couple weeks.
I get too many emails, and I'm pretty good at, going through them, but I missed it, I guess,
Yeah, well, that's okay. We found each other, and I'm excited to have you here. John, I love to have the audience get to know the guests and get a sense of who they are and what shaped them. So maybe you can share a sort of an overview of your life and I'm really interested. Your book and the whole concept is a deeply spiritual one. I'd love to hear how you became aware of the invisible architect within you, because that, I think, is really important for everybody to understand, that this is not a book that you wrote by taking great ideas out of other books and throwing them together, which most books are today, unfortunately, but it's something that is really a lived experience for you.
Yeah, mine was more organic and empirical, because I grew up in what we call a mistake by the lake, Erie, Pennsylvania. Another name for it is Dreary Erie. There's no art. There's no anything. It's just 100,000 small little city. So the fact that I even made it out and became famous and a celebrity is a feat unto itself. I guess you can't keep a good guy down.
No.
But at 3 years old, I was sitting on the living room floor with my parents, and they both loved big bands, and the Lawrence Welk Big Band was on. And I didn't know who Lawrence Welk was. I'm just 3 years old, sitting on the thing. And the accordion player, his name was Myron Florin, he was on playing. And I'm positive now it was one of my past life situations coming through. I saw the keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
They thought I want Italian Catholic keyboard, accordion, that's normal. Italian, but I saw the keyboard, and this voice, just like you and me, I call it a cosmic whisper now from Source, which I eventually named the Invisible Architect, said, point to the keyboard. I mean, it was so loud. As even a little kid, I kind of went like this. So I pointed to the keyboard, and my mom, bless her soul, her name was Menga, short for Domenica. She goes, oh, look at little Johnny wants to play the accordion.
Yeah.
I'm 3 years old. There's no critical thinking going on here. I just obeyed the command. And a few years later, they started me on accordion lessons, which was not my item. But I took to it like a fish in water, the musical part of it, And then I eventually started, my sister got a piano, so then I jumped onto the piano and jumped on the organ. And then about 15 or 16, somehow, that, and by the way, that voice has been with me ever since. So constantly interacting, right? And next thing I know, I'm in a band at 16 or 17. And what are the odds of this? So, I've lived a pretty blessed life as far as synchronicities. So I get into this band. I become the leader because I was trained. The other guys sort of weren't. And we were playing at the Ramada Inn in Erie, Pennsylvania, off of Route 90. And Buffalo, Cleveland, and Erie are in the snow belt. And it was a huge snowstorm that night. And what are the odds of this? Some famous producers driving from New York City has to go through Buffalo, Erie, and get to his hometown in Cleveland. Well, I'm at the Ramada Inn right off of Route 90 where he's got to go by. And the snowstorm got so bad and he got so tired, his voice said, pull over to that Ramada Inn. So he goes in, checks in, and he tells me this later. And he was about ready to go to sleep, but he couldn't go. So he goes, well, let me go downstairs and get a drink. He goes down and get a drink. And there's my band playing, and he's watching us. He goes, wow, these guys are really good. So he comes up to me at break. And by the way, there was hardly anybody in the place. Everybody else had gone home, but he came from, the freeway. He walks up to me and he goes, hey, are you the leader? You look like you may be the leader. And I said, yeah, I guess so. I'm 16 or 17. He goes, are you signed? I didn't know what the hell that meant. Signed? Yeah. What do you mean? He goes, to a record deal. I said, no, I guess not, because I would know, I think. He goes, well, you are now. And 3 weeks later, we get a contract in the mail and bring it to attorney. And next thing you know, we're driving up to Cleveland and recording. In those days, they had 45s. That's how old I am. And they released the 45, and it became a hit record in the area. And it was that easy to all of a sudden have something happen. But then the rug got pulled out from under me because those were the days of the Vietnam War. Our lead singer got drafted. So the song is climbing up the charts, number 5, and we're going on all these radio shows and TV shows. He gets drafted, doesn't get out of the draft like a lot of people did. And next thing you know, the record company drops us. So that was my taste of fame. But I can see why that was orchestrated, because that led me into being obsessed with music. And then I moved out of Erie and went to Boston, famous Berklee College of Music, to study jazz and everything about music. And then I moved out to California and quote unquote made it big. So that's how my music career got started. But your other question was, that was the beginning, unknown to me, of the metaphysical part, because this voice is talking to me. And I'm thinking everybody has it, which, by the way, they do. And that's part of what my mentoring is about, showing people how to align with the architect. But I'm just in communication back and forth. It's giving me advice. It's networking. It's doing all these different things and decisions. So then in 2017 or 18, my first wife had passed away. Then I was with my second wife. I woke up one day and the same voice that I had been interacting with all my life, which if you're reading the book, it talks about, it just one day said, hey, it's time to pay it forward. I'm like, what do you mean? I already wrote many music books, but it wanted me to write a metaphysical book about its interactions, our interactions, how it helped me, all its cosmic whispers. And I said, I'm not going to write a metaphysical book. I'm like well-known jazz pianist who's written didactic teaching books on music. What are you talking about? And I'll help you. And I literally, and by the way, the other answer to your question is, all those years on the side, I also, like you, read every metaphysical, philosophical book I could get. But why, you should ask me, it's because in order to become a great jazz musician, which is very much a self-communication thing, you have to get at a very high frequency mindset in order to play at that level. So all the metaphysical books and philosophers I studied and every ism and ology that I went into was, even drugs at a certain point, was the certain reason for me to become a better player. So on the side, I'm studying all that, but never thought in my later years like now that I would almost be like a self-made modern mystic. That never dawned on me.
It's beautiful though. And as I'm listening to the audiobook and hearing your message, it's got a real presence of authenticity. I've read thousands of books in my life, and there's a distinct feel. Like I, for example, read a lot of Jungian analysts, and they're talking about the self and the soul. But it's very clear to me as a man who speaks to the self and the soul all the time that they haven't had a connection with their self or soul. They're just talking about it. But with your book,
it's more analytical. Theirs is more
very analytical.
Yeah,
It's like an idea they're talking about. not an experience. And, you know, to someone who lives in that mode of communication with source, it's easy to tell who's talking about it and who knows about it. But I just felt that it was just so beautifully presented. And I thought that at first I was a bit like wondering, why is John breaking his book up this way? Because it starts off with these very short little sections. And then I'll refer to this again in section such and such.
Yeah, and I was purposely redundant many times on purpose to drive things home, you know?
Yeah, and as I got through the book, because I've written, I don't know, I just finished writing, I'm still working on a 15-volume set. We're launching the first one, but I've written 12 other books. So with these 15, I've written a lot of books. So I know a lot about book writing, but I just thought, wow, this is a very unusual way to write a book. But I just thought, you know, I'm just going to go for the ride. And then as the sections went on, it builds and it gets a little deeper and a little more complicated. So I could see you're helping a person taste the concepts and take them a little deeper. One of the things that I want to say to the audience is that for those of you that are atheists or agnostics or people who may not, you know, be open to the deeper aspects of the spiritual life, John gets into the deeper mechanics of how it works later in the book. You talk about it, you go a little deeper, but I found that the last third of the book really has the meat and potatoes in it for the people that might be inhibited or, you know, have all sorts of baggage about this kind of work. So I would encourage everybody, go through the book with an open mind and listen to everything he says and do all the exercises that he offers you and listen to the examples. And I think it'll become very clear to you. But I just, John, it's one thing to get somebody on the podcast because you think they got good stuff or because they're famous and they might be good for the audience. It's another thing when you have the experience I have and you go through somebody's book or audio and me as a person recognize the authenticity of the work. And I think as we're going to talk about this book and these concepts, I think are absolutely critical in the world right now for a variety of reasons, which we can get into later. But I think probably the first thing I'd love you to do is just explain to the audience, what is the invisible architect? What do you mean when you say that, so that people can ride with us and be in parallel with us?
Well, like I said in the book, everybody's got different beliefs. So whether somebody thinks it's Yahweh or the Holy Spirit or Jesus or God or intuition or hunch, that's fine. They can have all those things. And at 3 years old, I didn't have much critical thinking. I was just like going, what the hell is this voice? And as I got older, it seemed to always be in my best interests in everything, whether it was a little thing or a big thing, you know? So what I would answer that question now is the reason why I also named it Invisible Architect. Even in the Bible, it talks about God as the designer and the architect in a few verses. But the way the name came up is when in 2018 and a half or 19, when I got that sort of order from headquarters to write this book and pay it forward, I didn't have a name for it. I was calling it my higher self and my inner voice and inner power all these years, right? So when I went to start writing the book, the way I write a book is I usually have to have a title that has a concept, and then I put an outline together, and then I'm off to the races, right? So without a title, I was struggling.
Yeah, I understand.
So you know, because you write books, and I don't know if that's what you need, but whatever.
Yeah, you just described my process. The title is sort of the umbrella that everything's going to be built under, you know?
Exactly. So I was online doing some research for the book. I forget what concept I was researching. And you know how there's advertisements on the side, paid advertisements. And on the side, there was some kind of article about this architect, an actual architect. And they called his architecture invisible architecture, because the way his designs were, the the architectural design was sort of invisible. It wasn't sort of very overt and ostentatious, and that was his style. So I was getting, the voice was sort of doing this to me, like as I'm redoing research, it's kind of pulling my collar to look over, and I'm like, what are you doing? You're to track? And it was like, what, invisible architecture? And it was kind of like, and I went, oh, invisible. You want that in your title, invisible. And I thought, okay, this is about my higher self, God, invisible. But I didn't have the word architect yet. So it kept pushing me into this article. So I finally clicked on it and read the whole article about what it was about. And about halfway through, every time I saw the word architecture, it sort of popped me over the head. And I finally went, oh, not invisible architecture, invisible architect. Oh, God. Oh, and it was like this monumental cognition that was the title of what this energy, because I don't believe the architect is an anthropomorphic being that wants to be worshipped and judges, right? To me, it's a quantum intelligent energy.
Yes.
And physics has sort of proven that anyway.
Absolutely.
And I didn't want to have male or female or any of this kind of thing. So I went invisible architect. I kind of like that. That's really good. So once I put the title, I now also need a subtitle. For me, I need a subtitle. Some books don't need it, but mine always usually do. So I easily got the title, because what I wanted to write about is take some of these principles that I've studied and incorporate it into my life and this voice and this advice and put it into, The Invisible Architect, How to Design a Better Life. And the moment I said that title, I got sort of bopped over the head again. No. And I'm going, well, what's wrong with How to Design a Better Life? No. And I went, how to design a better life? And all of a sudden the words perfect came to me. How to design a perfect, I said, I'm not going to say that. They'll think that this thing is a scam, for God's sakes, if I say something like how to design a perfect life. And the answer was like, so you think I'm a scam? I'm all knowing. I'm all knowing, I'm all loving, I'm all. So if you're going to work with me and you're going to tell everybody how you and I have interacted, and you're going to represent me. So I want to be represented. So I very reluctantly put down in the computer how to design a perfect life. And that was it. And then the very next day I woke up with From Within.
There you go.
It wanted the from within, because that made it everything. Soon as the subtitle got locked with the title, it was almost as if like the architect download started to happen. It wasn't comfortable until I had the right title.
I understand.
And then it was just like a download. It was almost like automatic writing. I was writing. I had to go back in and edit and do various things like that. But that's how this whole thing started, because I organically had that first cosmic whisper, as I refer to it now, at 3 years old, and then kept having these interactions my whole life. But I was keeping them to myself. I wasn't thinking of sharing or anything, literally until 2018 and 19, when I sort of got that command to do that. And by then I had all kinds of miracles happen in my life. So it was easy to start writing,
Hi, everybody. I sure hope you're enjoying the podcast. As a therapist that is constantly teaching people about nutrition and hydration, I found that the only people that really understand and use electrolytes in general are endurance athletes. But what most people don't know about is the importance of electrolytes for general health, mineral nutrition, improved hydration, blood sugar and insulin regulation, enhanced vitality, and enhanced brain function. Though there is a rising awareness of electrolytes and many companies offering them, I can assure you that they are not all created equally, and what that usually comes down to is the quality and the cleanliness of the source materials and how they are combined. Having tested many electrolyte products, I was honestly shocked when I experienced Paleo Valley's essential electrolytes. Why? Because I eat a super high quality diet and back it up with the world's highest quality whole food supplements
to guarantee a full spectrum of nutrition. And I'm a lover of high quality salts, so I thought for sure I was getting enough electrolytes. When I tested other electrolyte products, I honestly felt no difference. When Paleo Valley sent me their essential electrolytes to test, I was honestly shocked at how much more energy I had. I even experienced an improved level of mental clarity that I didn't expect from an electrolyte drink, of all things. Paleo Valley's essential electrolytes are a whole food sourced electrolyte blend. Get the complete benefits of trace minerals and electrolytes found in unprocessed ancient sea salt, organic coconut water, and seaweed extract without the refined sugar and synthetic ingredients in most electrolyte drinks. To get your essential electrolytes and save 15% on your order, go to paleovalley.com/Chek15. If we want to make the world a better place, we've all got to stay healthy and fit and support companies like Paleo Valley because they're a perfect example of the kinds of companies we need more of in the world today. Enjoy essential electrolytes.
Yeah, I totally follow you. And I've been using these principles in my life with as much as I can. You know, I've designed countless educational programs and written books and built a huge institute that's worldwide. And as Penny was telling you before we started recording, Angie, Penny, and I have two wives, and Angie's a highly trained shaman. And so we used all these principles almost to the letter of what your book has.
Wow.
And you know, without a long story, we manifested our dream home because we were using 3 separate locations and we're traveling a lot and costing us a lot of money. And we said, you know, we need to consolidate this into one place and just have our students come to us. I was exhausted of traveling after 25 years, making it around the world twice a year, every year, doing countless lectures and being all over the place. It just fried me. And it was hard because of what we needed. And so I went into meditation and asked my soul to guide me and just did basically automatic writing and mapped out the whole property. And in my philosophy, you write down exactly what you want in great detail, but where a lot of people, I feel, make a mistake is they write down what they want, but they don't offer back what they're going to give in reciprocity. So I've always believed that reciprocity is important. And that goes all the way back to my studies of Walter Russell's. I did his 1-year home study course, and he talked about the love principle and the importance of the balance of giving and receiving. So me, Angie, and Penny got clear, you know, what are we going to give back to everybody and to Source for having this property? And then we had the whole map, and every day we would blow smoke to it and do a prayer of thanks and gratitude. But it's a 14-acre property on top of a mountain. We wanted a pond and a water feature. We wanted our own well. We wanted a big gym space, classroom space, a guest house, a big enough house for
Sounds fantastic.
It is. It's like, you know, a 6,800 square foot house, a 3,300 square foot guest house, the people that built the house and owned it originally were professional hot rod builders. So there's practically a 5-bay garage. I had to take the engine hoist out of it because it made the floor impossible.
Wow.
And then they had a massive RV barn connected right to the garage, which became our classroom. And we've had 60 people in there. So it allowed us to shut down our institute in Carlsbad that was costing us $15,000 a month just for the lease on that. And then all the students absolutely love it up here. And we've got just gorgeous views in every direction. And it was a fairly hard ask because to find all that in one place that was within our price range. And so just to sort of reiterate how everything you're teaching works, in the very first year when we started looking, every now and then we would sit together at the dinner table and just kind of start surfing Reddit and some of the home listings. And we would type in, you know, what we were looking for. And one day the place that we're in popped up, but it was $4 million. And we're like, shit, that's exactly the place we want. It's like scary how perfect it is. but that mortgage is just going to be too much for us. It's going to put too much pressure on us. And I said to the ladies, I said, look, I'm tired of working for friggin' money. I don't care how beautiful it is. If all I have to do is work all the time, it ain't going to be beautiful to me. So anyhow, 5 years goes by. We're looking at all these places. We're like, oh my God, we found a nice place, but it's right next to a highway, and we're listening to trucks put on their Jake brake every 5 minutes, and
that ain't gonna work.
No, and so I just kept asking my soul, are we going to find it? My soul said, yes, just be patient. It's coming, it's coming. Then I started having visions. 3 months before we got here, I'd be in meditation, and I would literally I'm a remote viewer, so I'm very used to this, and I would see the property like from a bird's eye view. And it kept reappearing. So I said to my soul, is that our new home? And my soul said, yes. I said, God, it looks like a hotel. It's so big. My soul said, don't worry. It's exactly what you need. So then I came and remote viewed and walked through the house and walked around the property. So time goes by. The girls are out shopping for houses one day, and they see auction, house auction sign, final auction. And they just intuitively said, let's go check it out. Well, it turned out to be this place that we'd saw 5 years ago, except now they were desperate to sell it. So we got it for half the price they originally wanted for it. And and so all these pieces came together, and I just wanted to share with you and the audience that I know that what you're teaching works because I live it. And what made me so excited about your book is you did such an amazing job of synthesizing it in such a way that anybody that's ready to take responsibility for the power of God invested in them, or spirit, or whatever they want to call it, has the playbook. It's right there. And in your descriptions a minute ago, you were talking about, all the things that kind of led you, the guy pulling over and coming to your band in the middle of nowhere on a cold night, snowy night. And it reminded me of a concept of in shamanism called flirting. And I've found, and I just want to open the door to this with you, that what you call your highest self, what Jung would call the self, etc., and we'll get into that in a second here, it's always communicating to us. But I think people they get so locked in urgency and fear and stress and ego that they ignore these beautiful communications. And what brought that up for me was when you kept getting pulled to the architect article. And there's the flirt right there.
I call that the cosmic whisper. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just thought maybe you could share a little bit about some inspiration for people on paying attention.
Well, I just finished a new book and sending it to my literary agent to shop, which is called The Sacred Stillness, How to Learn How to Listen.
Beautiful.
Because, in fact, I even forgot what the subtitle is now. Sacred Stillness, the infinite light whispers to those who know how to listen.
Amen.
So you just described a very important common problem. But before one even learns how to decipher this communication, this broadcast, you have to have awareness that it even exists.
Yes.
And if you were a jazz guy like I am, and you had this great jazz station in your house, but you didn't even know you had a broadcasted jazz station, you'd never be able to listen to it. Then, even if you knew you had it, you didn't know how to turn it on, put your earphones on and listen to it. So there's two things that have to happen. So in my mentor course, there's 8 milestones that I help people achieve. And the first one is becoming aware of who and what the invisible architect is. And then there's various drills that I'm expanding on in this new book. And you mentioned earlier, I think you said, somehow we were talking about an atheist. Didn't you mention an atheist or something?
I said it didn't matter if you were an atheist, an agnostic, or a spiritual person. The book's great for you.
Right. So here's the proof of that. So I get an email. Guy sees me on some kind of podcast like this, And he contacts me and he says, I want to do your mentor course. Money's not a problem, blah, blah, blah. So we have our normal freebie Zoom meeting where we, get to know each other. And he tells me this. And I said, well, Jesus, I said, Stuart, I don't really think I want to work with you because you're blatant telling me that you're an atheist. I said, my whole program is how to hook up to God, the architect. And so I don't want to have that be, a problem all the time. So I'd rather not take your, he's really getting upset with me. And he goes, no, I saw you on the, it might have been the Jeff Mara podcast that I was on. He saw me on the Jeff Mara. He goes, I just have a feeling that maybe I'm not an atheist and you could be the one to crack that nut.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And I went, well, I don't know that I want to have that responsibility. But so I made him sign a little disclaimer about the whole thing that he knows what I'm about. So it wasn't going to be, I want a refund. I didn't know this was about God or something like that, you know? So he did. And I started to do some of these drills that are expanded or in my new book, Sacred Stillness. And one of them was, let me see if I have it down here. One of them was, I don't even know which one it is. I ain't going to look for it. One of them was, if you have a problem you're trying to solve, then ask yourself, if I was God, what would I do? Mm-hmm. That was his assignment.
That's great.
And he didn't like the word God. So I said, well, we don't have to use God. I purposely use architect, and because I don't want to be associated with any other organized religious concepts and things like that. So let's just use that. He was fine. So he was doing this drill 5 minutes a day for about 2.5 weeks. And I always had one session a week. When all of a sudden I get this raving text. He goes, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. That's all he said. OMG, OMG, OMG. There was no text with it. A bunch of OMGs. And then I realized what he was saying was like true. Oh my God. He had been spoken to. He finally heard the architect, and he was trying to tell me he had literally a religious experience and that he was not an atheist anymore.
That's so good.
Yeah, it was funny.
I'm going to tell you something wild. Today, right before our podcast, I was out. I teach rock lifting, and I build water chargers and sculptures and things out of stone because I like to be out in nature and feet on the ground. And so when we moved in here, they had an Olympic-sized volleyball court, and it's got beautiful, like a sandy earth that's soft on the feet. So I filled it with great big stones, and it's a great place to go out and really be in nature. And I was taking some of my stacks down that I had built, which looked like towers, and there was a pretty big stone I had to lift, and I got real close to the stack so I could get my hands around it because you don't want to knock the stack off. And sometimes when you take stack stones off, you have to slide them to get them into a position you can grab them. But if there's lizards under there, things, you'll grind them to pieces, and you always have that, geez, I killed that poor little thing. I didn't know it was in there. But I knew for some reason I had to lift this one. I couldn't drag it. And as I lifted it off and turned away, I looked, and there was a bat under the stone.
A bat?
Wow. At the first time, and I've been doing this since 2006 regularly. And I've seen black widows, I've seen lizards, I've had baby snakes, I've seen all sorts of stuff. But a bat, and I thought, wow, that is the weirdest thing. What in the world is a bat doing in there?
They usually hang upside down, I thought.
I know. And it was alive, and it was looking right at me. And so I've just like letting that hang in the breeze. And I thought, here I am talking to John about the invisible architect, and bats don't see, they fly with sonar.
Well, actually, they do see. We don't see. We actually take light and transfer it. So
yes.
when we look at a star, people think you're looking at a star. And remind me about this concept, because when we get into Be
I
Do
know
Have,
all
we
about
talk
it.
about
I
that.
teach it. I know exactly where you're going. You can expand on it if you want to.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. So
Yeah,
we as humans don't see, but bats actually do radar. They see, you know.
Yeah. From that perspective, yes.
Right.
But the point I'm making is there's always cues speaking to us all around us because, we are everything. I mean, we can get it. That's what I've got coming up here. But I think that, instead of the bats over there, it's the bat of myself. So what is the bat of myself doing under this rock, which is not where bats usually go at all? I mean, we've got bats on the house. They'll hang from the rafters and these hang upside down, and I'm very familiar with them. But all of a sudden there's this one under the rock, and I'm just sitting here listening to you going, oh, the bat, what an amazing coincidence. I'm talking to John about the invisible architect, and the way bats see is so different than us.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's just, to me, that's a flirt. It's like, okay, there's something unusual in the environment talking to you. It's so unusual. In fact, it must be pointing to something. I just don't know what it is yet. But all of a sudden, I'm sitting here listening to you and thinking of the invisible architect, and in my mind gives me this image of the bat sitting under the rock.
Yeah, it's amazing. We're always being communicated to.
I believe, as you do, John, we all have an invisible architect. Jung would call it the self. Some would call it the spirit, others the soul. In my earlier years of studying spirit and soul, I read at least 120 books on the soul and spirit, and of them, only one or two gave in any instructions whatsoever regarding how to make contact with one spirit or soul. We have thousands of years of religions behind us, and yet the majority of the world population remains so externalized in their sense of self. It not only leads to a plethora of life challenges, but retards our personal and collective spiritual evolution, in my opinion. Why do you feel the invisible architect within each of us has evaded detection for so many, including those that deem themselves spiritually advanced or even enlightened?
Well, I have a different take on this.
Okay, good.
The way you stated it, I don't think we all have the invisible architect in us. I think we are in the invisible architect, because we are a spark, whether you want to go biblical and made in the image and likeness, if you want to go that route or whatever, but we are a spark of the creator of all, in my case, the invisible architect. Mm-hmm. And the problem, like I said earlier, when I teach my manifestation, because I'm not a fan of the regular New Age, secret, law of attraction, narcissistic, I am healthy, positive thinking thing, which doesn't work for hardly anybody. Mm-hmm. And they don't even know why it doesn't, because they don't really have the principles of manifestation done. Right. It's not really attraction, it's resonance. It's really the law of cause and effect. So if you look at the be, do, have, be and have are twins. So if your circumstances in life are undesirable, why would you put your attention on your undesirable circumstances? You would want to put your attention on what is the cause of these undesirable circumstances. So we are co-creators. The architect actually expresses its perfection through each and one of us. But it gave us free will, so we have to invite it into our lives. Now, at 3, I was blessed probably because 1 billion lifetimes of working and earning my keep this lifetime. I was blessed with this cosmic whisper where I didn't have to study how to communicate and interact with this architect. It just chose me and started interacting with me. And then, of course, that was probably one of my pre-birth agreements this lifetime, where I was going to service others and help them. Little did I know that, because I had to go through a whole big music career to get here. It's pretty crazy.
That's part of your listening training.
Right. But your question is most of these people, even the ones that study, and we actually started off with your podcast, is they're not organically going through their subconscious and communicating. Their analytical mind is knowing about it. And it's like I'll give you a martial arts example. For years, I studied martial arts, basically Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do from his partner, Danny Inosanto, who was a Kali Eskrima martial artist, and he and Bruce Lee were partners before Bruce passed. And when I moved out to California, I was studying. But Bruce, in his book, The Tao of Jeet Kune Do, he made a statement. He said, before I started studying martial arts, a punch was a punch, a kick was a kick, and a block was a block. After I studied all the art of fighting, every which way, when I got to the other side, guess what? Punch was still a punch, kick was still a kick, a block was still a block. But boy, what a punch, and boy, what a kick, and boy, what a block. So reading about climbing mountains, learning and reading about martial arts, and getting in the ring is a big difference. And unfortunately, in the metaphysical world, there's, like you said, there's just a lot of regurgitation of about 40 or 50 brilliant authors and about 10 philosophers, and it just keeps getting regurgitated, and then even messed up. It's almost like going to a
Chinese
Christian
whispers.
It's Chinese whispers, and it's like going to church and have one pastor take a biblical quote and give you his opinion of it, and then the same biblical quote at another church, and it's a completely different version. And it's like, wait a minute, what's going on here, So the thing that I realized I had to bring to the table, and why the architect kind of went, it's time for you to play it forward, is because I had 40 years of interacting with this organically. So now anything that I studied, I'd experienced it. And so I think not many people practice what they preach at all, and they haven't experienced it. And so they don't have a real communication, because I've worked with pastors in this area too that give sermons, and, actually got embarrassed after they studied with me for a while and realized that these sermons on, especially the one quote, the one guy was going, let me see, it was, what ye shall soever thinketh, and what's in your heart, so you shall be. Okay, well, that's all good. It makes maybe feel good. But if you can't control your thoughts, then it never gets to your heart, and you never own it, so you can't manifest it.
Right.
And he didn't know how to teach people. All he did was give the sermon and talk about it and make people feel good for a second, So your question had to do with why, if we all have this architect in us or ability to listen to or communicate, why isn't that happening? And you said it earlier, it's always there being broadcast, but nobody knows how to listen. But even if they knew how to listen, their life is so full of noise and chaos. I could not listen to Beethoven's Fifth Symphony if there was a bunch of rap and noise and metal work going on in my house. I would never even want to listen to it. Yeah. So you have to learn how to quiet and go into the stillness. Some people call it meditation. Some people do it in a variety of ways. But you have to go into the stillness and then do specific drills on how to listen for it. Because one of the biggest questions I have is, how do I know my voice that's talking to me and what you heard? What's the difference in the voice? Because everybody can hear their own voice inside. You can have a conversation right now with a voice, and you know it's your voice. Well, how do you know it's the architect or higher self or Jesus or the Holy Ghost or whatever your beliefs are? How do you know that? Well, a bunch of listening drills that I do actually get you into the silence. So when it happens, you go, oh, that's not me. I get it. It's actually there. I just have to figure out how to listen for it. And that's why the name of the new book is Sacred Stillness, how the infinite light is always talking to you, but you're not listening,
Yeah, I have exercises I do with people for that very reason, because I've been teaching people how to make contact with their spirit, their soul, and their unconscious. I teach tarot as well. And I use tarot as training wheels to get into not needing tarot. But one of the exercises I do for people is I say, look, I want you to count up by threes in your head and listen to it inside. Don't speak, just do it on the inside. And all of you hear yourself thinking. You're going 3, 6, 9, 12. Yeah, everybody can hear it. I say, good. Now you know what it feels like when you're thinking. Then I say, put your hands around your head and do the same exercise and tell me what you feel happening in your hands. They said, I feel energy moving. I say, yeah, that's exactly what an electroencephalogram is picking up. You can actually feel your brain working, and it's not hard to do at all. I said, the reason you can't hear your soul talking is because you don't know how to shut that part of yourself off. So now what you got to do is you got to ask a question. Like, dear soul, if you are there, please say something to me. And you got to completely drop any mental activity. And one of the exercises I give is I say, imagine your head is a pond and ask your inner self to make waves on the pond anytime you start being mentally active, and watch it and just sit and get to the point where you can relax and make that pond turn into a mirror. And that's the place you got to be to begin communicating with your soul, your spirit, or your unconscious. And so you and I are taking the same pathway, but it is exactly what you said. It's people become so busy chattering in their head, they don't even know they're doing it most of the time.
Well, they don't know the difference between their own. But let me drop another concept on you, because you keep saying this. And to me, this is incorrect grammar. We don't have a soul. We don't have a spirit. We are the soul. A human being is spirit, mind, and body. Race car driver who drives a Ferrari, he's not his Ferrari and he's not his engine. He's the driver. Yeah. When that Ferrari is old, he gets a new one, reincarnation, whatever. And that misunderstanding creates a lot of problems because there's no differentiation going on. Now, I've done remote viewing, but I prefer literally out-of-body exploration, because remote viewing is taking your consciousness and putting it at a location and remote view. It's why it's called it.
I can travel out of the body easily. I've been doing it since I was 12.
Yeah, well, I like out-of-body exploration better. The first time I had this complete knowingness of me being John Novello, that's just the name tag my parents gave my body. But when we pass away and die, there's no our soul. You leave, your body gets buried, and you go to the afterlife as a discarnate. That's still who you are. A human being is still that way, only you're a composite. You're a spirit and mind and body. And telling people they have a soul or they have a spirit is kind of funny, because you are the spirit. You really are. Now, we could be talking semantics, but semantics are sometimes important for some people because they actually think possessive. My question to them is, well, if you have a soul, who are you?
Right.
Who are you? Oh, well, and they can't answer that. Well, I'm me. Yeah, exactly. And you have a soul, you have a spirit. Well, who are you? Who's thinking of that? If I say, mock up a picture of a cat in your head. So they mock up a picture of a cat. So who just did that? I don't know, my mind. Well, maybe it was you that did that. So one of the things I teach is I get people to understand the difference. So the architect is the creator of all, and we are sparks. So just like a little, I interviewed Neil Donald Walsh on my podcast. I used to have a radio podcast on Law of Attraction Network, but I stopped that. I couldn't do it anymore. But I interviewed Neil Donald Walsh. He was an amazing interview because he talked about how conversations with God started and how he launched. You know who that is, right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right. And he goes, yeah, people don't know how to talk to God. His new book, I think, is called God Talk, and explains all the different ways God talks to us. He's quite a unique individual. I think he's 85 now or something like that. But by teaching the separation, what is a human being? You are the spirit. When you die, you cross over, you do what you do. And if you decide to come back, then you come back and you pick up another body. But you don't, this is my teaching now. We got me interviewing, And this is what I teach. You are the spirit. You don't have a spirit. You don't have a soul. You are the spirit. You are the head cat in charge. And your mind is the interface between the spirit and your body. A lot of people still think their brain is their mind, and that's not true either. The brain is the organ of the body, right? You know that. So the mind is the interface. So that separation and differentiation helps people realize who they really are. And then I do all the sensitive stillness drills from that viewpoint, and it really helps them hook up to the architect, because the architect doesn't have a body either. The architect is the big spirit in the sky, and you are the little spirit. Like Jesus said, I and the Father are one, but the Father is greater than me. So we've got the invisible architect. And so when we try to do the be, do, have, and implant our desires through repetition and advanced gratitude and all the things you mentioned earlier, well, when we're doing that, we're trying to incorporate and recruit the architect, because we don't design anything. We don't manifest anything. The architect does. The architect, God, is the power. We're the distributor of the power. All we have to do is align with the power and know how to do it, which using advanced gratitude, what I teach. I don't know if you got to the part in the book about the law of thought substitution, which
I'm
we can
on
talk about.
I've already, actually, I finished the book. I've completely finished it, yeah.
So there are various metaphysical principles to apply in the be, do, have formula, because be, do has been around. I mean, Zig Ziglar used to talk about you got to be before you can.
Zig Ziglar extensively.
Exactly. But what everybody's missing, when I say everybody, and I don't mean this from any kind of self-importance, the problem is the do has two parts to it. The do is what the woo-woo stuff. The do is what the architect does, and your supporting action. So you get be, this pure, clean, accurate desire. It's got to be very clear. I think you even mentioned it in one of your things. It's got to be very clear. And then you have to have 100% faith that it's already done in your universe. Well, most people can't do that because they don't know there's a difference between their thought universe and the physical universe. And if they don't understand that differentiation, then they think they're in denial when it doesn't appear. No, you have to. Dr. Joe Dispenza said a nice thing once, and I incorporated it. He called it remembering the future. So the way you actually manifest is you go into the future and envision your ideal desire already achieved. Thomas Troward does this, and so does Ernest Holmes. Already achieved and done in your universe in the future. Then you time travel back in the now, to use Eckhart Tolle's, in the now, and remember the future and give advanced gratitude to it. So once your thought universe has completely agreed that you've planted this seed, it's now a done deal in your universe. Now, the mind does pushback and says, hey, John, I know you're trying to manifest a lot of money, but if you haven't looked at your bank account lately, you're pretty broke. So this is kind of stupid. This is kind of stupid for you to say you are wealthy and abundant when you're in denial. Well, that's because they're mixing up the two universes. It's true. It hasn't manifested yet in the physical universe, but it will never manifest in the physical universe until it's completely manifested in your thought subjective universe. So you have to then know how to handle any pushback. And so in physics, there's a law, right? No two objects can occupy the same space, same time. Can't do it. You and I would fall through the floor right now if that was the case. Well, the same thing in the thought universe. You can't really think of two thoughts simultaneously. You can think of them sequentially. So when you have an unwanted thought that's going against your desire, then what do? If you let it become alloyed, then your desire gets alloyed and corrupt, and your be will never turn into your have, and you will never make the right decisions. And the architect has to have a clarity of your vision in order for it to do its woo-woo stuff and use its power and do all the networking for you, because it's the one that does the heavy lifting, not you. Did you get a chance to look at those slides in the Spiritual Conspiracy?
Oh, no, I didn't. I'm sorry.
When you get a chance, take a peek at that, and it shows some really good pictures of all this stuff.
Yeah, I'd love. I'm very interested in all of this. I'll wait till you finish, and then I'll loop back to some things that you said earlier.
Yeah, so the way I teach be, do, have is, yes, you have to have a clear desire. Everybody knows that. But what do you do if your desire gets alloyed? So in spiritual algebra, in my book, I call the formula B, right? B, your desire. D, do, B plus do equal have. But there's a catch. What if your B starts getting pushback in your own mind or from outside external? Somebody says something negative, or the news came on, or your own thoughts. Now it's the algebraic equation becomes B minus C, which is the counter intention, the negative thoughts, the counter effort. So now B minus C plus D is going to be less than H, which is have. So when you can't manifest that perfect B, you are manifesting the B, but the problem is your B is now not the B you wanted it anymore. It's been corrupt. So the law of attraction is always working. It's the law of cause and effect. And so if you have an unwanted circumstance in your life, why go through psychiatric counseling and going down the time track and find all the different times that you got corrupted or you've been abused and everything? That's like regular psychotherapy, going back into time and find all your negative incidences. I think you would refer to it as shadow work. That's got some value to it. But wouldn't it be better, this was my revelation, just create the right B? You got the wrong B, therefore you got the wrong have. So when you look at a star that's 10 light years away, are you looking at that star now? You're looking at it 10 years ago. That light took 10 years to come to you. Right. So the circumstance in your life right now, you don't even realize there's a co-creation going on from the wrong causation. Cause, effect, and the do is in between, right? So you got be, do, have. If your undesirable circumstances is undesirable, your have is wrong, then who cares how it got there? Create the right B. The right B would be, I currently have a fantastic job that's earning me a lavish, steady income that I'm really happy with. And let's say that's your real B, but you currently don't have that. You have a lousy boss, you're not making much money, and you hate your job, whatever. Well, guess what? You're mocking that up with the wrong B. So who cares how it happened, why it happened, if you grew up in the ghetto, all these different shadows. Yes, that has some workability, but you could work at that forever when in fact you could just go and get the right B. But if you get the right B, then what are you going to do when your mind pushes back and says, well, no, your current job is horrible? And there's where I teach the different universes, and you have to then be able to apply the law of thought substitution, which means when immediately you have the wrong pushback thought that's getting in the way of your pure envisioned correct desire, you have to immediately replace that thought with the correct thought. And after a while, you can actually train your mind to be focused. Like, as you know, with a magnifying glass, there's all kinds of sun, but until you focus that energy, it doesn't have the power. The problem is people do not know how to do focused prayer and focused thought. So once they even dream up their ideal situation, their ideal be, they can't get to the have because the pushback that happens externally and internally is not handled. And so their be keeps getting corrupt. Like if I sat here right now, like if you're looking at me, I'm holding this pen in my hand, right? So I'm holding, let's say that's my ideal be. That's what I want to mock up over here, because be and have are twins. The do is in between. But if while I'm doing this, I drop the pen and I don't even know it, and then I go over here and go, well, where's the pen? Well, dummy, you dropped the pen, but you didn't even know it. So you have to be able to, what's Eckhart Tolle say, like, stay in the now and be the observer, right? Which is in quantum physics. The observer helps mock up the energy that's already existing in the quantum intelligent energy field has to be observed correctly and mocked up so it comes into form. But it won't do that if you don't have a focused be. And you can't have a focused be if you can't focus your thoughts. So if you can't say, I have a lavish, steady income, perfect job with a great mate, and you can't hold that thought and repeat it multiple times a day consistently and apply advanced gratitude and love to the situation, then it'll never manifest.
Hi, everybody. My family and I love Organifi's green juices. You can get your green juice in 2 excellent flavors, crisp apple and original mint. Not only are these products made with certified organic ingredients to support your family's nutritional needs, they each have some unique benefits. Your green juice crisp apple eases stress with an effective dose of 600 milligrams of ashwagandha per serving. Helps reduce cortisol spikes that increase snacking urges and aids keeping your blood sugar balanced. Why snack on inferior foods that lack nutrition and often lead to blood sugar spikes followed by blood sugar crashes when Organifi's green juices are super healthy, taste great, and are as quick to make as opening the package and adding water. Your green juice crisp apple is made from fresh apples picked right off the branch and are packed with micronutrients to support your body's needs. Green Juice Original Mint contains ashwagandha, chlorella, and spirulina. Reset your body every morning with 11 detoxifying superfoods. You'll love the delicious taste and your body will feel strong and stable with all the micronutrients in each serving. Green Juice Original Mint promotes balanced cortisol and stress levels, perfect for weight management, and helps rid the body of harmful toxins. Personally, I'm super grateful that Organifi makes such excellent, easy-to-use drinks and foods that keep us energized, healthy, and clean inside while decreasing the urge to crave on inferior snack foods. My kids love both flavors, and I love knowing that we can all be healthy together with Organifi's excellent crisp apple and original mint green juices. These products are excellent for work, on the road, sharing with friends, and anytime you need a nutritious boost that tastes good. To get your crisp apple and original mint green juices, go to organifi.com/Chek20. That's Organifi.com/Chek20. Save 20% on your purchase using the code Chek20, all caps, on checkout. Don't worry if you forget your Living 4D discount code because you'll see it right there on the landing page. Enjoy Organifi's excellent green juices.
Yeah. I didn't want to cut you off. It's all right.
You can always do that if you want.
No, yeah, I just wanted to let you share what was real for you. You know, your conception of spirit and soul and what you shared about that. I think that's obviously your own relationship to it. But here's how
I don't think it's obvious, but go ahead.
You don't think what's obvious?
It's not in my opinion, from all my experience and my downloads, that's just not me coming up with my own version. I firmly have knowledge that is the case, in my opinion.
Right. Okay. So I'll because I can say the same thing, but I have
I know.
I have a different conception, and I've spent my whole life investigating these very issues.
Me too.
Well, good. Maybe we'll be able to share some different concepts.
I think it's time we write a new book together.
Yeah, I gotta finish the 15. I've already written 3,500 pages. I got 5 chapters to go before I can lay on the ground and go, oh my God.
I got 12 unpublished ones right now, but I finally just 3 weeks ago got one of the top literary agents in the world. I've been trying to get a literary agent, a good one, for a long time, and so I'm very excited about that.
Yeah. So when it comes to these issues, you used the word that we are a spark of God or source, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's spirit. That spark.
Well, that's spirit.
But that's spark.
We are.
Yeah, and there's lots of
we
sparks.
don't have but those are all individual energy spiritual signatures, just like 5 billion waves in the ocean, and the ocean is the architect, and each wave is individual and it recedes and goes back, but when it's individual, it's individual. So each spark is a spirit.
Right. Okay.
And
good.
you are that spirit.
And I'm Paul Chek.
You don't have Paul Chek, that's just the name of your ID tag.
No, but I'm Paul. I'm here in California. You're John. You're where you're at. We're both sparks speaking to each other. It's just God speaking to God in manifest form. So the point I'm making
Well,
is...
I don't even agree with that. I agree with the Jesus thing, which is the Father and I are one, but the Father is greater than I. So I'm not speaking to God and you're not speaking to God. We're two spirits with our own energy signature. And when we pass away and lose our body, you go to the afterlife and retain who you are, your energy signature, and I retain who I am.
Yeah.
Now, whether we go to a higher level at some point and we merge with the architect, which is higher and higher dimensions and no more reincarnation, that's another story. That's like the wave finally merged with the ocean, never to be seen again. I don't think that's the real goal for each of us.
Okay, so really what you're saying the same thing as I am. You're just putting
That's what I said earlier, but
you're just putting it in different words. For simply put, for me, spirit is the flow of energy and information, and soul is what's having the experience. So, for example,
but then soul would be you.
Well, of course
in
it is.
your
So
words.
is spirit. But
you don't have a soul then. You don't have you. You don't have you. You are you.
And that the soul is what's having the experience. So it's
then
consciousness within oneself.
Right. It's called awareness of awareness. That's you, who you are. You're the awareness of awareness. Right?
Technically, what you're describing is your own mythology and how it differs from mine. That's as far as we can go. That because I can't discount my own experiences. They're very real, and you can't discount yours. And so,
but who are you then? Who are you?
Well, I am.
Good. I am me. You're not the soul, and you're not the body. Because if you have a soul and you have a spirit, then my question, like I said earlier, is who are you? So
I am God manifesting in this form.
No,
Just
that's
like
the
you
human
are.
body. That's the human body that you're inhabiting, which is your sacred vehicle.
And my invisible architect is what designed it, just like yours did. That's why I look like me and you look like you.
Yeah, but you don't own God. God
of course
designed
not.
you.
But
exactly.
But here's the point, though. Don't you think God gives us co-creative license to create with God, or do you think we're all just automatons?
No, I actually said that. But originally, your spirit, as you say, who you are, as I say, you didn't create you and I didn't create me.
No.
The architect or the creator of all, universal conscious, whatever, who created the universe, this quantum intelligent energy field that permeates everything, is responsible for everything, and including you and me and thousands and millions of other spirits. But each of those spirits doesn't have a soul and doesn't have a spirit because God created the spirit. And who goes to the afterlife is my question.
Well,
when your body dies, who goes to the afterlife?
Well, that just depends on what your conception is. But what I would call it is the self returns to the afterlife. I would say that you used the analogy earlier. If you think of God as the ocean and each of us as a wave on the ocean, then going back to the afterlife would be a return, would be the wave coming back into the form of the ocean. But there's many different conceptions of how that works. If you study all the different religions, you'll get Tibetan Book of the Dead, you'll get the Christian conception, you'll get it all. So I just go ask my own soul or my own spirit these things and get the answers right there. But I think that the point I'm trying to drive at is that we are given co-creative license to the degree we wake up to what you call the invisible archetype. God doesn't come to me and say, you must create this or create that.
It gave us free will.
That's right. And that's why there's a spirit and a soul having the experience, because we're all ultimately sharing with each other through the quantum field, or what Bohm would call the hollow movement, instantaneously. What I learn is a gift to everybody. What you learn is a gift to everybody. And to the degree we get past our programming, then we have access to it all. But my point is that because we are co-creators, the flow of God consciousness and God's creative impulse to create each of us as a co-creator is what I call spirit. And the experience, the wisdom cultivated, which goes all the way back through alchemy, which they call the stone or the essence. I think that's the soul, is the accumulation of the essence of life experience, without which there would be no meaning to life.
Well, the oversoul, in my terminology, is who we really are, and that stays in the afterlife and sends a spark of itself into each body, which is why when you when you die, people go, well, wait a minute, if there's an afterlife, what if my wife is already reincarnated, so she's not going to be there to greet you. Well, no, that's silly, because she's always going to be there to greet you. She never left the afterlife. She sends a spark of herself in each body. So the oversoul is the accumulation of all the life, all the reincarnations and experiences forever and ever, how long you do, stays in the afterlife. And then a part of you comes into this body. Now you have a human being, which is a spark of the oversoul. So that's how I've looked at it. And I've actually traveled over there. So
yeah, and me too.
Experience.
I do too. And so what you're using as the oversoul would be very consistent with highest self. How would you differentiate those two? Or are they the same? Yeah, because to me, that's the highest self.
Exactly. Did you ever hear of QHHT, Dolores Cannon's method?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did that once just for research. And her whole thing is about, it's a different type of hypnotism. You don't go under. You're completely awake the way they do it. And all the questions they ask are they ask directly to your highest self, to your oversoul, and they record everything. And it's a very interesting experience. I must admit, she discovered something interesting.
One of the things I think it's important that a lot of people overlook about God, and it's very relevant to our back and forth on this issue, is that God is infinite, has infinite intelligence, infinite power, infinite information, infinite processing speed, infinite creativity. And because God can process everything there is in parallel, God can create multiple realities that are simultaneously true but different. Point being is, your conception can be absolutely true and you can experience it. Mine can be true and so can the atheist. And God says yes to all of it.
That's what Neil Donald Walsh's favorite answer is. When you speak to God, he's got one answer. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I got a headache. Could you please help me? Okay. Yeah. Which is why he said you have to be very, this is Neil talking, not me. You have to be very exact when you're trying to manifest. Come to the table and say, thank you, God. Thank you for my health in advance, and give all the data and clarity. Now the architect, which is the second part of do, gets busy expressing itself. One of my milestones to achieve is that the architect knows itself. This is usually quite a controversial statement. The architect, God, knows itself through expressing itself through each of our desires. So in one hand, you go, wait a minute, God's all-knowing, he's infinite, blah, blah, blah. What do you mean? Does that mean he doesn't know himself? Well, just like if you have kids, you kind of vicariously know more about yourself as your kids grow up. Or I'm a composer and you're an author. As you write more and more books, you grow and you know more about yourself and as you create. So the architect, God, has created everything. This is quantum energy filled. And you have a desire and you do BD. It wants you to be able to have that result. And it expresses itself through you, but you have to invite it into your life because it gave you free will, and you have to know how to interact with it, which is what I call spiritual mechanics. If you don't know how to focus your thoughts and give advanced gratitude and be consistent and repetitive, then your predominant thought, most human beings' predominant thought, is worry and chaos, as you know, and everything else known to mankind. Well, they're not going to manifest anything but that. Right.
You touched on an issue that I've run across countless times with students and people and patients and everything else, and especially religious people that say, well, God is perfect, and have all sorts of justifications for that. And so I say, well, we have a couple of problems we have to address here. First of all, something that's perfect doesn't move. You can't improve upon it.
So and it doesn't commit 2.5 million murders in the Bible either if it was perfect and loving. That's another podcast.
Yeah. And when I'm bringing my circle comes right through that.
Right.
And therefore, the reason life is here is because life is the constant attempt to validate the perfection through trial and error.
Exactly.
And so we are God's test of its own perfection. We are the experience of identifying and experiencing so that perfect
That's exactly what I just said. That's
is
perfect.
a validation. Without us, without life, it would just be an illusion, and there'd be nobody there to witness it or.
And that's why I say it knows itself through expressing its perfection. One of my prayers that I do is really powerful is perfect life within me. Come forth into existence and express your perfection through me of that which I am and lead me down the paths of perfection I agreed with. And through this process, I shall be illumined, acquainted with you, and be at peace. That's an overall macro-focused command where I'm inviting this perfection to express itself through me of that which I am because it created me. And these desires that I have, and rather than getting into all the little be-do-haves and manifestation relationship coaches and get rid of my headache and let me get this overall command. Once you, I think you'll like the slideshow when you see my spiritual conspiracy slideshow. We don't need to be more of who we are. We need to remember who we are. There's no such thing as personal growth. There's remembering our divinity. Remembering is what we need more of. So we need to be more in alignment with the architect and remember who we are. We don't have to grow. Grow means, well, and I'm weak and I'm not who I am and I'm not wait a minute. If I'm made in the image and likeness, problem is when we come in, we have a veil that's put on us on purpose because you can't play chess with yourself, remember everything in all your lifetimes, right? So remembering our divinity is what really growth is. And the way we do that is by aligning with the architect. Because once you align with the architect and realize that, wait a minute, this is pretty narcissistic of me. I am healthy. Well, wait a minute. Are you going to create that? Or you want God to create that for you? I am healthy. That you can do all those steps and do your courses, which is great, and your organic stuff and your holistic stuff, and that's fantastic. But you're still supporting, those are your supportive actions to help you get healthy, and they're very valid. But in the end, when you say, I am healthy, you're inviting this perfection into your life to express its perfection, which is why somebody could smoke cigars until they're 102 and somebody else gets lung cancer when they're 14. Why? What's going on there? Some people can eat toxins forever and have 2:00 pizza, and other people are on macro dietbiotics and they still get cancer. What's going on? Well, there's a spirit, mind, and body. And if all three of them, as I think you said in your book, because I remember reading some of it, have to be in alignment, right? Yeah. All three, not just eating good by itself. Well, if you got all kinds of stress in your life and suppression and you're not handling the emotion and the spiritual part, that disharmony will impinge on the body. You could eat all the greatest foods in the world. You're still going to have problems.
Yeah, there has to be alignment. If someone says I have a perfect body or any of the words you just used, but their behaviors are in contradiction to that intention, well, then, you're going one step forward, one step backwards, and you're telling yourself you have a perfect body on the way to the hospital to get your cancer removed.
That's why the B plus D doesn't work then, because you've got B, the perfect B you're saying, and then your doing this doesn't align with the B. So now instead of B plus D equal H, which is the health, you got B minus all this counterintention and stuff that's coming out of your mouth that you're not handling. And so now your original, I have a perfect body, I'm healthy is really cool, but then you're doing all these things against it. It's not going to work.
One of the things that came to me as you were saying, you were talking about growth and you kind of suggested that
it's not really growth, it's really remembering. Same thing, but yeah. I'm calling it remembering who you are and getting in alignment, as compared to just studying the piano. You could do scales and chords repetitively over and over again and grow and get better and better through the practice, right? But metaphysically, we are already made in the image and likeness of the architect.
Well, that's the growth to come into alignment with it.
Right. But in actual fact, and this is semantics, what you're really doing by doing this growth and getting in alignment is remembering who you are. I'm just posing that. as a different way of looking at growth as remembrance. Now, what's his name? Who's the guy we mentioned earlier? The Zig Ziglar. He used to talk about personal growth is the ladder that gets you to the top of the tree to pick the fruit.
Yeah, he did say that. Well,
Yeah.
I have a situation in which I think that might be different than that, not that it's antagonistic to it, and that is creativity. I think that because we're co-creators with God, and the more conscious we are of God or the invisible architect within us, God says, John, play, let your heart play a riff. And you go, oh my God, that's fun. And that's amazing. Because to remember something means it already exists, but that doesn't leave room for creating the novel. And I think God is in love with novelty through and through. There's no two people that'll ever be the same. There's no two snowflakes. There's no two stars, no grains of sand that are the same. God's a novelty generator. And I think growth through the act of creativity, I think, is a beautiful way that God grows in, as, and through and with us.
Yeah, but that I did say that. That's why that milestone is that God expresses its perfection. So when I play, one of my biggest realizations when I was trying to become a good jazz musician, I had already learned the chords and had the skill set and everything. And I was playing, but one night, for some reason, I went exterior and I was above my body while I was playing, watching the audience.
That'd be fun.
It was. And all of a sudden, it was like I made a decision that instead of me playing the piano, I invited the architect to express its perfection through my existing abilities, because it can't bypass you. So that's what I mean when we're saying the architect knows itself through expressing its perfection through us. Now, you have to invite it and be ready to receive it, or it can't do that. Right? It's got so much energy. It's free will. It's like the Star Trek non-interference policy or something, right? It's not going to interfere. Well, did you read the part in the book about the taxi cab driver? You get into the car and he goes, where? To the village. Fine, that's very clear. That's your B. Clear.
Yeah.
Guy got it. He starts driving. You go, I don't know. I'm kind of hungry. Can we go to Carnegie Deli? Okay, no problem. Yeah. And you keep doing that after a while. The difference between God and the taxi cab driver, he's going to throw you out of the damn car. He's not going to deal with it. But the architect gave us free will. So if you want to create poverty, if you want to co-create health problems, it's going to help you. And you might think, well, wait a minute, it shouldn't do that. It's above my pay grade. I just observed that. It's all I know is that it's going to help you. It's neutral. If you want to come from poverty or health, it's neutral, which is why I like to help people get their better B's and their desires and learn how to focus so they can actually, like the subtitle says, how to design your perfect life from within, which is the be do have from within.
Yeah, and I think my own take, having spent 42 years working with broken and sick people, is that...
And you're not broken and sick. Well done.
65 in August and still putting it hard to the young pro athletes.
Guess how old I am?
Well, I would imagine, because you were talking about the Vietnam era, that was when I was like 8 or 9 years old and you were playing jazz. So you must be about 10 or 12 years older than me.
Yeah, I'm 78. I'm 79. Yeah.
You're doing good. Thank you. But my point that I was leading to is that I have found that God says yes to the creative act of creating an unhealthy body as quickly as a healthy one, because all of it is an experience. And I think one of the challenges we face, that I think your book's such beautiful medicine for, is that we're so oriented from religious ideology and from politics. And
that's a nice word, oriented. How about brainwashed? But go on.
And yeah, well, that you can use that word, and all the social conundrums. I mean, all you got to do is read scripture. It's just a constant battle. And I think that over time, people have become so good at orienting themselves to what they don't want and to the negative that they've become very efficient in manifesting it. And
then without realizing it too.
Yeah. And so when I get patients that are in really rough shape, terminal cancer, I've said to them, congratulations. You have
law of attraction's working really good for you.
Yeah, you are a tremendous manifester. All we got to do now is really just get you clear on what you'd rather have and reorient your power of creation to creating what you want, because you've mastered creating what you don't want. And I really think that that's important too. I think because anybody that's not ready to do that could read your book 50 times and it won't work for them because they're still stuck in creating what they don't want. I think there's a certain tipping point where we have to come to the point where we're ready to get over our old habits and our cultural habits. And we have to say, I just got to see what's possible and I got to pour my heart into it.
I absolutely agree. And it's like trying to get somebody to quit smoking that doesn't even realize they're smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day.
Right.
First of all, they have to take inventory on what they're doing, and then they have to want to quit for whatever reason is, and then they can maybe move into that area. But that's where you can create, rather than having to do all the shadow work necessary for that, just create the correct be, which is, I have a healthy body, I'm not interested in smoking and blah, 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 blah. And if you create that and envision it and think in advance and know how to repeat it into the subconscious mind, especially in the holographic state right before you go to bed and when you wake up, so it sticks, then after a while, you've auto-hypnotized yourself. And because the subconscious mind is the portal to the architect, not the analytical mind. So once you get recruit the architect, I mean, how could the architect who created you and me and the whole universe have a problem mocking up a better relationship or a better body? No, wouldn't have a problem. So did you ever hear the expression by Thomas Troward, one of my favorite New Thought authors? I am the person thou art.
Yes.
Thou art the person I am. He says, alternating between those viewpoints is the ultimate way to manifest anything. Well, what's he mean by that? Did a lot of research on this. If you're knocking your head against the wall, are you being the architect or are you just being John Novello? So if I'm knocking my head against the wall and things aren't going, I'm struggling, I'm all stressed out, why isn't this working? What's going on? I'm not being the architect. So that's why I am the person thou art. Thou art the person that I am. So be the architect. That's why that guy had that religious experience. What would the architect do right now? All I was doing was fooling him to become and remember who he is, his divinity. Once he remembers who he is, all his power comes back. But does his power come back? No, he recruited the power of the architect. He's distributing it. Like if you have a dark house and it's night and you didn't know you had something called electricity in your house, you wouldn't be able to light your house unless you knew about a candle. But if you knew, you would still have to know how to distribute that electricity, that power, right? You'd have to go find the switch and turn it on. So the distributor of the power is us. If we distribute the power, life becomes effortless after a while, because let the power do the heavy lifting. You don't need to do the heavy lifting. If you're walking down an alley and a gang member is trying to roll you and you got Bruce Lee as your bodyguard 20 feet away and you don't know Bruce is there, you can't even call his name, then you're going to fight the gang and probably get killed and rolled up. But you go, hey, Bruce, I need you right now. What are you doing? You're distributing the power. So the power is way bigger than you and does all the heavy lifting. We don't need to be in the effort band. If we are in the effort band, then we're doing Thomas Troward's thing. I am the person thou art. No, you're not doing that. You're not being the architect right now. What would the architect do? So it's a way to fool the person to distribute the power and use the power, because the architect is dying. Like Neil Donald Walsh says, think of the architect sitting there with his hands folded and he's just stomping at the bit and go, oh, please invite me into your life so I can help you. Oh, you're not. Oh, you don't know about me? Oh, you think I'm a judgment God that needs to be worshiped. Oh, you think, no, I'm not that. I'm not that. Please. When I interviewed Neil Donald Walsh, he goes, I got 5 words for that. you got it all wrong. Meaning all the isms and ologies that are saying God is this and that and this and that. He was an amazing guy to interview, I got to tell you.
Yeah, well, everything you're saying reminds me of a quote by Greg Reese. It's very easy for people to trick themselves, but it's very hard to convince them that they've done it.
I like that. I've never heard that.
Yeah, it's very easy for people to trick themselves, but very hard to convince them that they've done it. And I think that, all the religion and all the other factors involved, from politics to even our education systems down the toilet with all the programming.
Absolutely.
I think that's how people unwittingly get tricked, and they actually believe that's knowledge. And I think that gets in the way of meeting the invisible architect. But I have a term I coined called the pain teacher. I think when pain shows up in our life, it shows up in ways that are directing us to exactly where we need to look to see what we're creating so we can make better choices. So I think as a therapist that deals with health problems, I found it a perfect door to help invite people into their creative abilities, because they're a captive audience when they're in pain.
Yeah, because pain in a body is the body signaling you, right?
Yeah.
You're the practitioner in this area. I'm not, but it's the body's way of communicating to you that something's not right in this area, right? I mean,
well,
pain.
It's also God showing you what you're using these powers that you're talking to about as be do have. He's saying, look, God, not he or she, but God is saying,
right.
Look what you've created. Congratulations. But you don't have to keep doing that.
Exactly.
The pain is telling you that that's enough. Try something better.
Yeah, you're knocking your head against the wall. It's not working. So you're not being me right now. If you were being me, this wouldn't be happening. So invite me into your life. Let's get in alignment here, buddy.
Yeah. So I think there's a purpose to it, because it shows us where our programming is leading us into what we don't want instead of what we do want. And some people need to get a lot of don't want before they're ready to convert to the do want, don't you think?
Yes. I mean, why is there a line to come to the physical universe for reincarnation? I'm writing a book right now that's a comedy novel, and it's about a soul group in the afterlife run by Lorenzo, this former Italian mafioso guy in his other life. And he's bored now in the afterlife. He misses the babes and the booty and the espresso and living in Naples. This is the plot for the novel, right? And one day he has a meeting with his spirit guides, and they contact the architect. This is the novel. And they run it by the architect. Listen, Lorenzo wants to reincarnate now. He doesn't want to wait. He's pretty sick of the afterlife, and blah, 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 blah. And it's really funny comedy, but it's a metaphysical comedy because there's a lot of teaching elements that I threw in the novel. And that's why my literary agent likes it, because they specialize in wisdom, philosophy, and these kind of things. And she likes that I have a common thread in all my metaphysical books, because I got 12 other metaphysical books. My next book is going to be Beyond the Architect, which was really a challenge to write just by the title, right? It's called Beyond the Architect, The Cosmic Dance of Existence. And it's really a fun book to write, but it's done. And she goes, well, let's get your children's book out now, because that's going to do more for humanity than another esoteric metaphysical book.
Yeah, exactly. There's an author.
Kids.
There's an author you probably haven't heard of, and I would doubt it just because he's very rare, but I think you'd find him very fascinating if you're going to write Beyond the Invisible Architect. His name's Wei Wu Wei. And he wrote a series.
But Wu Wei is a concept too, though, isn't it?
Wei Wu means action without action.
Right. Yeah. But that's his name.
Doing, not doing, is what it means. His pen name is Wei Wu Wei. He keeps his name.
I was going to say that's probably not his name. Yeah.
No, okay. he writes under the title Wei Wu Wei for the same reason.
Name.
For the same,
exactly.
He's a Taoist, so he's relating to the Tao that can't be spoken. But his series of books is very profound and beautiful, and it's.
Wait a minute! I think I got one of his books. I read it about 40 years ago. I'm going to go look for it again.
Yeah, most of the books have black covers. I've got all of them. I've studied them all, but it's very beautiful. But it's so deep. Most people that aren't ready
Right.
will just not even get it at all.
I'd like to read it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Send it to me if you get a chance. The title.
I'll dig it up. I'll get one on Amazon for you, and I'll send you, and you can see the whole series. But I have a feeling it would be great for you to just touch on his way of relating some of these concepts. It might just open your paintbrush, your palette a little bit. I wanted to touch a little more on the be, do, have, and help the audience just have a little more clarity. And I want to introduce this exploration. I love the Quaker saying, pray and move your feet. I see a lot of people praying, but a very significant lack of moving their feet. So the move your feet to me is oriented to your do. Can you speak and to simply break it down? Be is, do is, have is, and then how important is it to, when I say move your feet, I believe that you've got to actually embody the person. So for example, when I'm working with people that want to run the marathon for the first time, they have the concept in their head that I won't be a marathoner till I run the marathon. And I say, no, that's the wrong concept.
That's have, do, be.
You've got to live, eat, think, and train like a real marathoner now. The marathon's just a confirmation of what you already know. So you got to get into the marathoner mindset. You got to have the discipline. You can't talk yourself out of things. So that's the move your feet of the Quaker's prayer.
I got it.
So I'd love it if just for a very simplistic be categorized, do have categorized, and then how important is the move your feet and coming into alignment with it?
Okay. So most people operate on have, do, be. Well, if I had a college education and I had some money now, I could do this and I could do this and I could do that. And then I could be blah, blah, blah. It's funny how even though Shakespeare's famous quote was about suicide and death when he was querying himself to be or not to be. Right. That really is the question, to be or not to be.
Yes.
He didn't realize it, that he's being very metaphysical there without knowing it, right? But yeah, like you just said, well, I'll be a marathon runner. That's have, do, be when I run the marathon. I've had that experience, right? No, so be, the way I do it, is becoming one with the desire in the thought universe, not the physical universe, because it hasn't happened yet. Mm-hmm. So becoming one means, like when I get a tuning fork and I hit it, it vibrates and it's resonating where it was supposed to be. It doesn't have to remember itself. If it's an F tuning fork, it knows as a personification that it's an F tuning fork. And when I hit it, it does it. And it's in total resonance. But what happens if I touch it with anything? It goes out of alignment with itself, forgets what it is, and there's no more F happening, right? Mm-hmm. So B is, if my B is, I want to be an incredible jazz musician. That's a goal yet. I want to be an incredible jazz musician who can play anything he hears creatively at the highest level. Now, that's not a statement or an affirmation yet. That's a goal. Problem with goals are they are actually admitting you haven't achieved it yet because it's got time in it. So I tell people, no, change the goal into a fact. They have trouble with this, right? Because they don't know the different universes. Well, how do I do that? Well, you are. So say I am, blah, blah. We already know all that stuff. So I am. Now you've got your be. You have to, like you just said, convince yourself in the thought universe with advanced gratitude and imagine it already done. Now you're into do. As soon as you imagine this already achieved and all the feelings that would go with it in the, what I tell people to do is, if you already achieved it in the physical universe, what feelings would you have? Well, mock those up in the thought universe and visualize them all until, because the greatest thing is the subconscious mind, and you know this, doesn't know the difference between the real physical universe and the thought universe. If you do it correctly, it thinks you've achieved it. So just like what's his name says, the wish fulfilled, that's the do. But there's two parts to the do. Is you need to recruit and align with the architect, right? So invite the invisible architect through your imagination right? Which is gratitude and faith and loving action, and then support it in its attempt to distribute the power and know itself and realize. And then with advanced gratitude, that's the frosting on the cake. The have starts happening, right? Mm-hmm. So there's two parts to the do. A lot of people leave out the architect or God, the power, and they narcissistically do the be, imagine it, and then think they got to do it all. And they're everything. Well, now Bruce Lee's waiting to come in and help you. What are you doing? So it's two parts to the do. So become one with the desire. Invite the architect into your life through your imagination. What's his name? Neil Goddard calls Christ the actual imagination. The Christ in you, which is the imagination in you, which is the actual ability. So you have an imagination. You can create anything in your universe. Just like God said, let there be light. So you create that with your imagination. And then, of course, you don't just sit around doing nothing. If you've created that and you are it, you're acting like this marathon runner should be acting with the right mindset. He's going to do what? He's going to do all the actions necessary for him to be ready to do that. And then the have starts happening. But the magic stuff is what really I love, because the architect will actually do things that will blow your mind. You read the part in the story about how I saved my wife's life.
Yes, that was beautiful. In fact, I thought that was profound. I think that's such an important part of the book, because nobody can deny the objectivity of that. That's just,
Yeah, and so for real. 40 years, I had been communicating with the architect and totally trusted it. So if you're able to communicate and align with and totally trust it, invite it into your life, then it communicates to you, and then you will do all the supportive actions, right? And then the advanced gratitude, you called it something else. I like what you said. You said something gratitude. What did you say? I use advanced gratitude. Some other people use another term. You said something. I forgot what I liked what it was. Anyway, the advanced gratitude, according to Neil Donald Walsh, tells the architect you now have 100% faith in it. Because if you believe the architect, God, is the power and can create and manifest anything, then given advanced gratitude before it even showed up in the physical universe, shows you have 100% faith that it can do that. If you do that, it recruits the architect to go ahead and do it. If you have doubts, it's the strangest thing. That co-creation starts, like we talked about earlier, you're creating the wrong thing in a co-creative way. And it's helping you. Whereas the taxi cab driver will throw you out of the car. He doesn't want to deal with you, which is a good thing in this case. But the architect won't. The architect goes, oh, you still want to be poor? Okay, well, I guess I'll help you. I'm not really thrilled about this, but
Imagine having a personal blueprint for how your own body works, what foods support physical and mental harmony, what movement your body actually needs, and what steps to take to build real health from the inside out. Not just handed another random diet plan and not given a generic workout program yet again. Now, imagine being personally guided through this blueprint by a highly trained Chek practitioner using the system created by Paul Chek with his 42 years of experience, and not left trying to piece it all together from conflicting advice online. That's exactly what the new How to Eat, Move and Be Healthy coaching program is designed to do. Based on Paul's best-selling book, this online self-paced coaching program starts with your personal needs, your personal assessments, and your current reality, then guides you step by step towards a healthier, stronger, happier life. You'll learn how to eat in a way that works for your body, build a foundation of balance and symmetry through movement, and follow a phase system designed to help you handle whatever life throws at you. This is not an AI-generated program promising unrealistic results with no actual humans involved. It's delivered by real Chek practitioners trained in the system Paul has refined over decades. When you finally stop guessing and start following a process built around your goals and the assessments you complete, you'll start to see real, life-changing results in as little as 8 weeks. It's self-paced and comes with lifetime access, so you can revisit the program whenever you need it. Plus, when you take action now, you'll get over $200 of free bonus content. For a limited time, Spirit Gym listeners can join the new How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy coaching program for just $195. Go to paul.chekinstitute.com/Spirit Gym to learn more, or tap the link in the show notes. That's paul.chekinstitute.com/Spirit Gym.
I developed a test to help people refine their manifestation language. I think you'll find it interesting. I call it the Grand Canyon test.
Is it in your book? Is it in your book that you gave me?
No.
Okay, that's all right.
It's that book's just a tiny little sample of my teachings, but I say to them, look, if you go stand next to the Grand Canyon and say, I want to lose 60 pounds in 3 months, what's it going to say back to you? Everybody says, I want to lose 60 pounds in 3 months. I say, good, 3 months goes by and you got the verb wanting. You're standing there wanting to lose weight.
It's the wrong word. Yep.
So
in my opinion,
it's
I have lost it. Is what
I look great. I feel great. And it's not even 3 months. What's the Grand Canyon going to say back? Exactly that. So I encourage people to always, like, I take people on plant medicine ceremonies for healing. So the invocation is very, very important for this very reason. So I have them read their invocation, and then the people in the room with us, they become the Grand Canyon. I say, now, is that really what you want to experience right now? And they often have to fine tune because they realize they're such in the habit of creating they're almost writing about their fears all the time.
Right.
Like, I don't want to have more of this. I don't want to have more of that. And I said, well, you failed the Grand Canyon test because that's where you're putting your intention.
That's where your shadows are. Don't put your attention on those.
Yeah.
You see. So, yeah, to do the be, do, have, these are the 7 milestones that are part of the be, do, have process. Number 1, we talked about, I show people how to gain awareness of the invisible architect. Very important. Number 2, everything is energy and energy attracts like energy. That's a common law of attraction, and it's true as far as resonance. 3, there's a difference between the thought and physical universes. You got to know that, or you're not going to manifest anything, because you won't be able to create a pure be, because your mind's going to always push back and tell you, well, wait, I haven't achieved it yet. Mm-hmm. Well, of course you have in your universe. And since all thoughts precede reality more or less, you have to get past this. It hasn't been achieved yet. No, you want to achieve it here. Take your attention off of that and achieve it here, which is why the Hermetics talk about as below as above, as within as without. Mm-hmm. Thoughts create reality. There isn't anything on this planet you can point to that wasn't originally some kind of thought by somebody.
Right.
Group of people, and even let there be light. So that's obviously the most important part of manifestation. But if you can't hold that thought and don't know the law of thought substitution to be at focus, it's not going to work. So the 4th milestone to achieve is the architect knows itself by expressing itself through you. However, 5 is very important. All the people I get of law of attraction have trouble with this one. You are the distributor of the power. You are not the power. The power designs your life, not you. Now, that seems like you're making yourself weak. No, you're making yourself stronger. In World War II, if you were at the front lines and 5,000 Germans are coming over the hill and you didn't know you had air support in a walkie-talkie, you'd be an idiot to just fix your bayonet and run after all of them. You'd just call command and say, hey, coordinates 24, blah, 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 blah. I need some napalm. You're going to feel pretty powerful after that. Well, you directed the power, right?
Yeah.
So we are the distributor of the power. 6, for the invisible architect to do its magic, which is, remember, step 2, the architect does its magic and you do supporting actions. You must be ready and you must invite it to do so, because it gave us the loving gift of free will. It loves us so much. And that explains why evil exists. Hey, if you want to create evil, go ahead and create evil. The architect's not going to stop you. He gave you free will. Sounds pretty crazy, but, and then 7, you must know and believe that the architect is the supreme cause of everything. That last one is so important because if you didn't think God, this all-powerful, all-knowing, quantum intelligent energy field that permeates everything, couldn't create and solve anything, then you're dead in the water. So you wouldn't be able to have advanced gratitude, would you? You wouldn't have faith. But if you have 100% faith in this quantum intelligent energy to create anything, then all you have to do is learn how to communicate with it, perceive it, and distribute its power. But along the way, if you didn't think it could handle it, it'd be like if you had a staff member working for you and you gave this staff member a job to do, but you didn't think she could carry it out, you probably wouldn't give her the job, right?
Right.
Right. So if you're gonna give the job to the architect, you have to invite it and you have to believe it can do it. That belief is step 3 of the be, do, have, which is the advanced gratitude. Because if the architect sees you have 100% faith and you are thank you, and you really mean it in your heart, thank you for my rent being paid this week. Oh my God, that's so amazing. I had no idea how I was going to do it. And you did the be, do, have on just paying your rent, and you had 100%, and something came, it manifested out of the blue. A friend of yours, who knows how the architect works? It can do anything. You know what I mean? So there's the be, do, have. You become one with it. Use your imagination to perceive with feeling the be or the desire already created in your universe. And then you will naturally do supportive actions to help the architect. And then advanced gratitude brings it into play for the have, be, do, have. Along the way, the only thing you have to be careful of is the formula feeding back on yourself, which is the counter thoughts that come in and alloy your desire. When that happens, you apply the law of thought substitution immediately. So if it comes into play, you have to recall, okay, I got it. My friend said, I don't think you should be a teacher. I just saw something on the news that said teachers don't get paid much anymore. So you agree with that counter intention, and that screws up your be of being a teacher. So in that case, it came from the outside world. But whether it comes from outside, a friend, the news, or your own internal stuff, you immediately would say, no, I am a very successful, loving teacher. You have to put it back and grab that be and hold it again and keep it persistent. And the ideal time to input it into the subconscious is when your analytical mind is pretty much nulled out. Thomas Edison and Franklin and stuff used to do that on their inventions. I think it was Edison who used to put 3 ball bearings in his hand when he was trying to solve an invention. And he wanted to get as close to sleep as possible where the analytical mind was nulled out without falling asleep. So he had these ball bearings in his hand. And when he actually fell asleep, his hand would go like that and the ball bearings would fall and he would wake up. Because he was constantly trying to keep himself right at the verge of unconsciousness, which is the hypnagogic state.
Exactly.
And right when you go to bed and right when you wake up is the greatest time to implant your subconscious with your bees for your be, do, have.
Steiner teaches the same concept, but something a little more practical than ball bearings for people. He says just get a plate or a cookie sheet and a piece of silverware, make yourself comfortable on the couch, a bed, or a chair, go as deep into the relaxation as you can, and if you fall asleep, you'll drop the silverware on the plate or the cookie sheet, and it'll wake you up. So that's a technique I use for long enough to be able to hold the hypnagogic state. Because when I'm coaching people, I'm really tapped into what I call their soul self, because I found what they're saying at the surface, the ego, is usually very misleading. So I have to listen much more deeply than that. Right. So I'm actually living professionally. I practice being in that hypnagogic state because that's how I can get to what's really going on with people a lot faster.
That's good.
There's one thing I wanted to just touch back on. You did briefly talk about it, but I think it's worth just a little more clarity. You know, there's the old saying, God takes you at your word. And I think there's a lot of importance of being as crystal clear as you can.
Yep.
So that you're really refining and defining the be because people are very often fuzzy, like I want to be rich, or I want the perfect soulmate. These very diffuse things, and they often don't realize that they're probably already getting it, but their lack of focus and clarity is such that they can't see when they're getting things because the same degree of fuzziness is being projected out. Could you touch a little bit? You kind of hit it with the taxi cab example, but how important is it, and how far do we need to go with having clarity of vision and intention?
Well, there's a saying in logic and higher mathematics that absolutes are unobtainable. So if you were 5 feet from the door and you kept taking a half of that, 2.5, and a half of that, and a half of that, you'd still never arrive at the door by doing that. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question, it's critical. The more detailed and the more clear you are for the architect, because remember, you're not doing this for yourself. You're stating this B to implant it in your subconscious portal to get to the architect's portal. And so once you have the B, if it's too generic, you're not going to fool yourself that it's already communicated and done in the thought universe. So if you use your imagination, you want to add all the feelings and the details as if it actually really happened. Mm-hmm. It's easy to do what I call now gratitude, which is a way to practice advanced gratitude. Something in your life that you've achieved, it's easy to give thanks to that in detail because it's happened in the physical universe. The harder part is to give thanks in advance for something that hasn't happened in the physical universe, that you want to have happen in the physical universe, but you've got to fool yourself that it actually happened in your universe. And the way you do that is you first have to have a very detailed, clear, write it over and over again until you've added as much modification and details as you can. I've been even having people use AI to help them do that. Write their desire down and then give a prompt to Grok or ChatGPT or Claude or something and say, hey, expand on this detail-wise in the area of my emotions and blah, blah, and then it'll write something out with more detail and give them oh, I see. I never thought of that. So once they get this detail, then using your imagination, well, how would that be in the physical universe? What are all the feelings I would have? So you mock up all the emotions, enthusiasm, and details, and what would your friends think if you achieved that, and blah, 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 blah. Then you get all of that together. Now your imagination has created its own version of the facsimile you want here. Now, if you can keep it focused like a magnifying glass, and there's the problem, but if you can learn how to focus and keep repetitively doing that at the right times to plant that seed. What is it? Jim Rohn used to say, quit digging up the dirt to see if your seed's growing because the crows will get it.
Yes, exactly.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Don't dig it up and keep seeing if it's working or not. The crows are going to get it. I used to love that thing. But if you keep doubting it, you're not going to get anywhere. That's why you have to have the law of thought substitution. But the answer to your question is it's crucial. You can't even go to step 2 if you don't have a detailed step 1 in your B.
I think that's a lot of the reason I brought it up is because I think it's not just child wish fulfillment. There has to be some meditation, some inner digestion, some honesty.
Yeah. It has to go to your heart.
Yeah, and you really have to say, what exactly do I want and what am I willing to be and become and step into fully? Otherwise, I think the process of creating the clarity is actually the refinement of getting the heart into it and saying, we're ready, we're clear.
Yeah, and if it isn't really something you have passion for, good luck.
Yeah, no, you won't have the flow of what I would call spirit. There won't be enough spirit moving through it.
And I call that, the way I teach that is burning desire. So what is burning desire? The way I teach it is if you were 50 foot underwater scuba diving and all of a sudden you look down and your oxygen was about 2%, somehow you must have a leak. You got to get to the surface. So there's a burning desire, right? However, you look up and there's 2 or 3 sharks around. And you're going, oh, wait a minute. Now you got a problem. No, you don't. If you got burning desire to get to the surface, you could give a shit about these 3 sharks. You can't give a shit about them. You got to get to the surface at all costs. When I give that analogy, people go, oh, yeah, I don't really have a burning desire to be a great pianist. It'd be nice if I was a good piano player, but I don't really have that. And that's the difference. If they don't have the burning desire, you can forget this whole thing.
Well, you've got a chance to live at the surface, but you don't if you don't breathe.
And that's why burning desire is, the sharks may not attack you, or they may attack you and you may live. But the other way, you're done.
Yeah, they may have just had a meal and just look at you. Yeah, I'm curious. Have you ever studied any of Sri Aurobindo's work?
I just interviewed 5 months ago Sri. Are they the couple? I don't remember their last name. That started the Oneness group. Yeah, there's a couple in India that started the Oneness group that I interviewed, but it's not. It's a different couple.
Sri Aurobindo's been dead for a while now. He was a famous Indian guru. He started his own movement. Very, very deep and profound man. He was raised in India, but he was educated in Oxford, and he was a very, very...
That's not the guy George Harrison from the Beatles studied with, was it?
I think he did.
I think he did.
I think he did spend some time with Sri Aurobindo. There was a couple of different gurus. But anyhow, Sri Aurobindo is a very rational guy, but a deeply spiritual guy. And he was very aware there was a lot of fake gurus and healers all over India, but he also had seen miracles. So he took it upon himself to identify what were the qualities of a true spiritual master. And he did years of investigation, and he synthesized it down to 4 qualities of a spiritual master. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because what he identified as the true qualities of a spiritual master are in all of us, and they're totally in alignment with what you teach. So he said, after years of research, all true spiritual masters don't do anything themselves. They draw their power from unconditional love or God.
That's it.
They can all create beyond the laws of physics, which means you do it in your mind first. They could all turn a negative into a positive, and they all brought equanimity and harmony with them wherever they went. They were always in that state of being the person that their heart told them to be, and that what their potential was. And they weren't easy to knock off a center. And I think,
maybe you're making me feel good, so maybe I'm more than a jazz musician.
I think so. I just thought...
I'm only kidding, yeah.
As I studied your book, I thought, wow, I wonder if he's ever studied Sri Aurobindo, because what John is sharing here are actually exactly the techniques that were found to be true of all true spiritual masters. And I think ultimately we're all here to truly become more of what we really are.
Exactly. Or, to use my words, remember who we really are.
Sure. Yeah.
Same thing. See, even though I've studied like you and read a lot of books, obviously, most of my focused metaphysical organization stuff has literally been downloaded directly from the architect. When I write, it comes out, and then I question it. Wow, that's pretty good. I thought of it this way. No, it's this way. So in my book, Beyond the Architect, I did something I'm real excited about when it comes out. I did 26 question and answers directly with the architect in a comedic way.
Good.
And I'd say something like, hey, architect, really? You may be having a bad rap here on earth, because in the Bible, I counted 2.5 million people that you either murdered or instructed to murder. And if you add Noah's Ark story to it, it's 25 million. What's up with that? That's my question. Yeah. And you wouldn't believe, this is not me making up the answer. Then I waited for the answer because I have this line. And you wouldn't believe these answers I got I was like going, oh my God, I never thought. It was incredible. So anyway, I took 26 subjects that everybody's dying, whether they admit it to not, would like to have an answer for. You know what I mean? Yeah. Why did you create evil? That's another one, or whatever. And they're about 10 Q&As, and they're about maybe 2 inches, maybe 50 to 80 words each. So the question might be short and then the answers like that. And it took me a while. So part 2 of the book is questions and answers with the architect. And each one I call a dance because the subtitle of the main book, Beyond the Architect, is called The Cosmic Dance of Existence. So that's the big dance. Mm-hmm. Then these are little dances: dance of evil, dance of reincarnation, dance of whatever. And I started off with only 10 dances, but as I kept doing it, the architect would say, well, what about this? What about that? So I finally finished that section with 26.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. I just got an idea if you're into this, as long as you would, and I think I can trust you. I always look for beta readers before I do a final version of the book. Would you be interested if I sent you a couple manuscripts to give me input, or are you too busy?
I'm busy as a blue-ass fly or a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest, but I'll tell you what I could do. Because it's you and I love your work, I could at least look at what I can look at and say, John, I've read page such and such to such and such.
Yeah,
Here's
any
my
feedback helps. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay.
I think ultimately what you are about and what I'm about are really very, very parallel. I think we just have different ways of explaining it,
I agree.
Which is fine. John, it's, I
didn't mean to be antagonistic.
No,
that.
I look.
Okay, good. Right.
That's why I call my podcast a dialogue, because it's really about sharing. And, look, there's as many ways to God as there is people. And, I love Tantra and I love Taoism. I'm not a big fan of the Abrahamic religions, but they're here for a reason. I love physics and quantum. To me, it's all the unfolding of the divine, and I find it interesting to learn how each person's story unfolds within them. I think I interviewed James Carse one time, who wrote the most excellent book, Finite and Infinite Games. And
I never read that.
Oh my God, it'll blow your mind.
Finite, and when you send that other thing, could you send that title too?
Finite.
Because I'm a prolific reader. I read 3-4 books a week.
I'm just writing a note. But anyhow, I asked James Carse, who was a professor of theology and philosophy for 38 years, and you can read his books. He's deep as deep. He wrote another phenomenal book called The Religious Case Against Belief, showing that anytime you have a belief, you can't be practicing religion, and it was very profound. And I said to James, what is a myth? And he said, Paul, a myth is a story that tells itself. And to me, that is the most profound definition of myth. So that's why I was saying earlier, you're describing your own mythology, the way your story tells itself.
I see.
This is how my story tells itself.
I got it.
But it's all coming from the same storyteller, because life is the story being told, and all stories are inherent in the story of life.
And we're all one in any way. So
yeah. But John, it's been a phenomenal journey together. I was really excited to get the email back from you and know that you were excited. You were willing to have this share with me, and I wanted to get as many people as I could to read your book or listen to it. I think the audio is fantastically done. My whole family's sitting at the dinner table over listening while I'm doing the dishes, so I'm kind of getting them the little unconscious program going there. As we close, anything that you'd like to share as closing words? I know you have things that you offer people, websites. How would you like people to find you? What would you like to offer them, and what are your closing words?
When this comes out, are you going to have, like the normal podcasters do, a place where you have the website and stuff typed in, so it doesn't have to just be on recorded?
It comes out in all the main podcast.
No, I didn't mean
outlets.
that, but I mean at the bottom, usually podcasters.
Oh, there's information in the show notes.
Yeah, the information.
Sure, yeah. Oh,
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But my mentor program, I got two main websites. One is go.johnnovelloauthor.com/register. So if somebody wants to meet with me and have a free mentor session and life strategy session, they go to the go.johnnovelloauthor.com/register. My main big overall site is johnnovelloauthor.com, and that has everything on it. And I'm very passionate about helping people. I only do one-on-ones because I don't believe I can teach this stuff in a group class. Everybody is different. You may, I don't know how you work. Maybe you do group classes, but I have trouble with that.
I teach principles in groups, and I do focused work with people.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So that's how they can get in touch with me for that. Or if they want to find out about my music, I have a different site, Keys, like Keys, car keys. Keysnovello.com is where all my music is. And as far as any last words, I like to leave people with these 4 fundamentals. You are not the power. You are the light switch. You are the distributor of the power. And that's how you become very powerful, when you realize how you can recruit the power to design your perfect life. So that's one of the mentor metaphysical fundamentals that I help people realize so they can do. The other one is have, in the be, do, have, is not a goal like people think. It's a symptom. So whatever your circumstances are, they can be changed by not looking at the circumstances. Go back to the cause of circumstances. So instead of calling the law of attraction, I call it 3 things: either the law of reflection, or the law of cause and effect, or the law of resonance, because what you are, then the have is a twin of that. And the other important part of the be, do, have is let the architect do the heavy lifting. Humanity's problem, I don't know if we talked about this, but collective humanity. Remember the book Celestine Prophecy?
Yes, it's been a while.
By James Redford. And in the beginning of the book, because he's a guy that was kind of bored with life and not doing well, he heard that there was some spiritual stuff going on in the mountains of Peru. That was the character. So he went there and had these insights. But he said something very profound. The problem with humanity is they have unknowingly been disconnected and separated from the universal consciousness, and therefore have become weak. So the solution is realignment, and all the insights that the author talks about in the Celestine Prophecy are about that. So humanity's deepest problem is their amnesia about this. And so there's no way to do collective humanity that I have figured out. That's why, to me, we can only do this pretty much one by one until some kind of collective frequency takes over. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, I personally tell my students that, Rumi says the greatest teacher is the silent teacher and the greatest lover is the silent lover. I think that the practices that you're teaching and that I offer all raise our vibration, because the doing, it requires that you raise your vibration, and you have to come into coherence and be honest in and with yourself so you get rid of the fuzziness. And, obviously you're a very confident man. You're a very well, you're successful. So I don't think anywhere John Novello goes, there's any confusion being broadcast into the air about, am I really successful? Am I really a good musician? Right. Am I really a good author? And so there's the silent teacher everywhere you go, and the silent lover is your love for life pouring out of you everywhere you go. So I think it's both. I think we have to do the individual work to really become conscious of the fact that we do have these abilities and we do have the invisible architect, and come into alignment with that, into sympathetic resonance. And then we are actually sending that message out everywhere we go, and we're putting it into the collective. And I think that's how we reach the collective. That's how we reach the collective, in my opinion. I don't think we can do it any other way.
Yeah, I don't think you can do it in a group thing. I think what you just said is perfect. It's the butterfly effect. Every high frequency service to others that you throw into the world is collected and helps raise. Because I've noticed right now, it seems, on one hand, it seems like there's a lot of dwindling spiral going on regarding the planet, some of the symptoms. On the other hand, it seems to be awakening going on at the same time. Don't you feel that?
Well, I think we're in a birth canal. I think we're coming out of one. It's like it's like we're going through our teenage years, and we're we're having to reject mommy and daddy religion and mommy and daddy government and mommy and daddy control drama and step into responsibility for our creative abilities and what we have to get clear on what we want to create together. And I think we're in the crisis we're going through is the process of the snake shedding its skin of our old bad habits.
Yeah, it's the growing pains.
It's the growing pains. And I think that we just have to focus on what we want to give birth to together, and we'll be okay. But if we just keep focusing on, all the pains and all the problems, and we just keep remanifesting it, is how I see it.
Yeah, it becomes a feedback loop. Yeah. And the last thing that I'd like to let people is the journey really is not of becoming. The journey is remembering. Mm-hmm. And as you remember your relationship with the architect, who you are, then the be starts happening effortlessly, because that's where your true power is. And like Redfield said in the Celestine Prophecy, we've become separated, meaning we forgot who we are and forgot our connection. Mm-hmm. And that's why if you can't remember we're all one, then that's how a war can start, because now you're in competition with somebody else instead of in creativity with somebody else.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because God is love, and that's the ultimate thing right there. So, hey, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, and I feel like we're supposed to do something together one day.
Oh, it'd be fun. Yeah, we stay in touch. We've got each other's contacts. When your next book comes out, let's do this again, and I'll read it and we'll share it with everybody. I'm really excited that you're doing that for kids, because that came to me very strong, that I've got to take my kids through your book and use it as a sort of a guide manual, and I'm going to give them exercises.
You actually validated my whole thing by saying that. I even thought that was pretty much a synchronicity, because I just got the idea few weeks ago and actually finished the first draft already and sent it to my agent. She's flipped on it. And I had AI do all these pictures of kids. I had AI read the script I wrote, and I said, come up with a picture of a kid dramatizing what this script is. And I kept doing it till it got it right. And so now I've got all the pictures in there, which is great, even though those are only placeholders. If you get a regular major publishing deal, they'll probably change all that around. Who knows what they're going to do? But the closer you get to your vision, the better. When you
absolutely,
get those kinds of deals, you know what I mean? So by you saying that was really good synchronicity, because we were both talking how important it is to get kids when they still have their imagination, because they don't have a problem doing the step 2 of the be do have, because they got this unbelievable imagination. They can do all of that stuff. And then I even showed them the law of thought substitution, but didn't do it in the adult way. I did it in another way. It shows a picture of a kid, and he has a negative thought about something, and then shows him that you can change this thought. And then it shows him changing the thought by pictures, In the end, my agent said, I think we need to do a literal animation on this.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, John. Been a great journey together. Look forward to our next one. Thanks to all of you for listening. And if you're with us now, I know you're ready to be, do, and have. And The Invisible Architect is available on Amazon. That's where I got it. The audio is excellent, as I've said. You can get the book. I'm waiting for mine to start my kids' evening study lessons and teach them how to use the God-given powers within them now, so they don't have a bunch of the world to clear out of their head later.
Later, like we had to.
Yeah. And thank you to my sponsors for all your love and support, amazing products. Anything you buy from the sponsors, you're putting money in the hands of responsible companies who happen to get all their source materials from biodynamic and organic farmers who are taking care of the very planet that takes care of us. So
that's great.
You win, sponsor wins, Mother Earth wins, and a little goes to the podcast. That's the circle of love, as I call it. So thanks for joining me. I look forward to sharing something more with you next week. And I'd love to hear some stories about what happens when you start practicing what John shares in The Invisible Architect. You can always leave me comments on the podcast YouTube channel. And I love all of you. Lots of love. Aho, great spirit. Thanks again, John.
Take care. Lots of love. Bye.
Awesome, John. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Spirit Gym with Paul Chek and today's guest, John Novello. Make sure to pick up a copy of John's best-selling book, The Invisible Architect, How to Design a Perfect Life from Within, available on Amazon. Paul also recommends the audiobook version, which is very well narrated and available on Amazon or Audible. To find out more about John's one-to-one mentor program, go to go.johnnovelloauthor.com/register. You can visit John's official music site at keysnovello.com and find him on Facebook at john.novello.3. For more interaction with Paul, you're invited to join his newly redesigned Spirit Gym community membership, where you can watch his Purpose Aligned Path program, meet other members in the members only forum, and join Paul for bi-weekly Q&A calls. Go to myspiritgym.com for full details and to register. And finally, if you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the show on the podcast platform of your choice. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, and YouTube.